Hello, and in this video I'm making a rural train station. My idea behind this was to make a train station in the middle of a rural setting. Maybe there previously was a train station here before, but this is a revamped version, a newer version of a train station. And I was planning on using Jaren's new rails. I believe they're called Better Than Vanilla rails. And I used them for the parts outside the station, but I was going to use the high-speed rail as the station itself because it was a different colour, and I felt it fit better within the the station as a modern station. The sleepers were white, and obviously the track looks a lot better. But the only problem is, apparently, for some reason, even though I've tried it before, I couldn't enable it to be a station. No trains came to the station. I couldn't even set up a train service between this station and another station if I had the different track. So I had to switch back to vanilla for the station, which isn't that great because the vanilla tracks are a bit rubbish compared to Jaren's new improved tracks, but what are you going to do? I just had to go with what I could do and what would work within the game. Otherwise it would be a bit boring if there were no trains coming into the station. So I just changed it back to vanilla. So the basic idea behind the rural station is that there is a small roundabout out the front to just add a bit of something to the front of the station. The front of the station basically is right onto the road. I imagine this station is very low maintenance. There's not very many people here. There's no even information or ticket desks. It's a very rural experience. There's machines to buy your tickets. There'll be a train every now and again, even though in the cinematics there were trains all the time. I just added those to be more more interesting to watch, otherwise it'd be very boring. So as you can see here, I have made a car park, and now I'm moving on to the station itself. So I'm using Sparks' stairs as a way to get from the car park to the platform. I thought I'd go with a bit of a interesting curved design for the stairs on this particular part, just because the station was going to be a bit boring. So I added this nice curved staircase that went all the way up and along the platform, broken up a bit by some planters that I add later on. I also add some poppable asphalt to get it all level. Poppable asphalt is so great for just making things that would be so difficult with using roads and stuff, to get them all level, to get it all as flat as you possibly can. Although I do run into problems where things aren't as flat as I'd like them to be, and that tends to create problems later on. But I put that down to my probably laziness. I mean, I'm not a stickler for like flat detailedness. I do like detailing, but if I can find an easier, cheaper way to do something, then I will do it, because it is easier and just better. So I added a curb to the front of the station there to give it a bit of something different, because otherwise we're just using the roads themselves. They have this obviously dirt texture on the side. So I used white curbs, and then I used Ronix's black curbs on top, and it just creates a bit of difference between the ploppable asphalt and the edge of the station. So now we've skipped ahead, and I've used some of Sparks' decals here. They're a like a slab / cobblestone decal. You see them a lot in the UK. I also add some of Lost Gecko's industrial gangways, I believe they're called, just as walkways between the two stations, because it's a very rural station. There's not many trains that are going to be here, so you will be allowed to cross the station, otherwise there would be no way to get to the other side. I also went for a very simple design for the station itself, just some corrugated steel roofs with some benches and like pay machines and times for the trains. I'm doing a bit of detailing on the roundabout, and I used some of the yellow double lines to just make it look more realistic, because a lot of places in the UK have this sort of yellow line, double yellow line, to show this is not the correct, you can't park here or can't stop here, which I felt was needed in front of this station. So I decided that the Sparks' decals were a bit bland for this area, so I switched it up and use King Leno's brick decals to add a bit of life to the station, make it look a bit more different. I find the problem with Sparks' decals, those ones in particular, are very bland. They are very realistic. That is what it looks like in real life, but still they are very bland, and with these guys you want to make things pop, make things look more realistic. Well, not necessarily more realistic, just pop out at you. That's why for the crossing I added those two red stripes either side of the crossing, just to make it stand out more and make it look more visually exciting. So I decided the corrugated roof looked a bit old and just not fitting, so I changed it for this concrete star roof, but I have to go through and change all the benches and stuff to line up with the new pillars, which wasn't too hard. Just move it, select prop only, and then just simply move them into the correct place. And I had them at a slight offset to one another, so that it just added a little bit of visual difference between the stations. I also add bollards out front to stop cars driving up onto the stairs, and to try and prevent people from stopping right outside the front of the station. What I think I could have added was a like a drop-off point for people who didn't want to go into the paid car park to just drop people off. If I ever did this sort of thing again, I would add a drop-off point so that people who didn't want to pay would just be able to go and drop people off there. I also added a lot of fencing to try and keep people off the tracks at certain points. Obviously there is a crossing on the tracks, but to keep people off the tracks before the train reaches the station. So we skipped ahead to where I made this planter out front to separate the two bits of stairs, and I just go along adding a ton of these small little bushes. The only problem is obviously the planter is slightly raised, so only the tops have come out of the mulch that I added to the bottom. So I've added quite a lot of those in different colours, just to add something into them, otherwise just having mulch there would look a bit silly. So my original plan for this area was to have a bus stop here, but I couldn't get bus stops working in my save game. I've been having this problem for ages, and I just felt that I wouldn't have the bus stop here. I would just have a little railings area separated that maybe could be used as a bus stop, but in the game there is no bus stop here. The buses don't stop here. If anyone has any ideas why my buses don't work, please let me know. They spawn and then they usually get to the first stop and then they just return to depot. This also happens with trams and sometimes with passenger trains. I have no idea why, so if you have any clues, just please leave a message, tell me. I'd like to know. I've tried removing the mod and then re-enabling the mod, and that allows you to control vehicles that spawn, but it's still not working. So if anyone has any ideas, please let me know. So as you can see there were some buses that were going through the roundabout and just disappearing off back to the depot without going to the second stop, which sucked. I don't know, it's just annoying. So here I am adding a ton of trees around it, and I felt that this was very boring. Didn't really fit the rural theme of the station very much, so I decided to add some farms around the outside of the station. First I lined the edges of the road with some trees to create a barrier between the road and the farm. I really want to try and find a way to have like earth mounds between fields. Because where I'm from there's a lot of earth mounds and that separate fields and roads and other fields, with a small hedgerow maybe running on the top to try and keep the earth together. I haven't really found a good way to do that. I couldn't do it with the terrain itself because the terrain in this game is terrible. The only way I could really do it maybe is with a very particular set of trees and bushes. I still haven't really found the combination that works. So for now, it's simply just trees that line the road separation between the farm and the road. So I'm using Dikaza's farms to just create this sort of farm field area. Obviously, they overlap a bit at points, which is a bit weird. So I'm trying to draw the eye away from the points where they overlap by adding some trees and some farm vehicles that try and remove some of the like visual breaking points between the two different types of fields. Doesn't really work too well, but it's okay for what it is. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.